You sit in that small exam room, the paper crinkling under you, your hands folded in your lap. The doctor barely looks up from the chart. "It's just stress," she says. Or maybe, "Your periods will regulate with age." And you nod, because what else can you do? You're not a doctor. You're just someone who knows something is wrong. But that feeling, the one that whispers at night when you're alone, that something in your body is off, that this isn't normal, that feeling doesn't go away. You start to wonder, am I overreacting? Am I crazy? But what if that voice inside you was right all along? What if the years of waiting, of being told you're fine, of collecting symptoms like stones in your pocket, what if that wasn't your fault? Today we're going to talk about why it takes so long to get diagnosed with PCOS, why your body's signals were ignored, and why you were never crazy for trusting yourself. Because here's the thing. You sat in that cold exam room and you knew something was wrong. And maybe it's time to find out why. You sat in that cold exam room and you knew something was wrong. And maybe it's time to find out why. So let's start with the numbers. Because if you've ever felt like you're the only one wandering through this fog, you're not. The average woman with PCOS waits 4 to 7 years for a correct diagnosis. 4 to 7 years. That's the time it takes to finish college, to build a career, to start a family, and you spend it being told you're fine. Over half of you will see 3 or more doctors before someone finally listens. 3 or more. And nearly 70% of PCOS cases globally remain undiagnosed entirely. Let that sink in. This isn't rare. This isn't an anomaly. This is a pattern, a crack in how medicine treats women, especially when the symptoms feel vague or messy or easy to brush off. But why? Why does it take so long? One of the biggest barriers is that the symptoms themselves get normalized. You walk into your doctor's office, maybe you're 16, maybe you're 23, and you say, "My periods are all over the place. Sometimes I don't have one for months." And the doctor says, "You're young. It'll regulate." Or you point to the acne that won't quit, the dark hair on your chin that you have to tweeze every morning, the thinning hair on your scalp that makes you feel like you're disappearing. And someone, maybe your mom, maybe your dermatologist, maybe your well-meaning friend, says, "It's just stress. Wash your face more. Eat less. You're just built that way." And you start to believe them. Because the people who are supposed to know your body better than you do, they're saying it's nothing. So you push down the little voice that whispers, "But this doesn't feel right." Except here's the truth. Irregular periods, acne, hirsutism, weight gain that won't budge no matter what you try. These are not random annoyances. They are signals from an endocrine system that is struggling. And yet, primary care doctors often have almost zero training in recognizing PCOS. One study found that less than a third of medical schools in the U.S. include PCOS in their required curriculum. So when you walk in with a list of symptoms that don't neatly fit into one box, your doctor doesn't see a syndrome. They see a collection of unrelated complaints, and they treat each one separately. Which brings us to the medical maze. PCOS is diagnosed using what's called the Rotterdam criteria. In simple terms, you need to meet at least 2 out of 3 conditions: irregular ovulation, high androgen levels, the kind of hormones that cause acne and hair growth, and polycystic ovaries seen on an ultrasound. But most doctors don't order all 3 tests. Your gynecologist might do a quick pelvic ultrasound and say, "No cysts, so you're fine." Never mind that the ultrasound is about the appearance of the ovaries, not just cysts. Or your dermatologist treats your acne with cream and antibiotics, without ever checking your hormones. Your primary care doctor runs a thyroid panel and says, "Your thyroid is normal, must be something else." Meanwhile, nobody connects the dots. And you go from specialist to specialist, telling the same story over and over, feeling less and less heard with each visit. On average, women with PCOS see 4 different specialists before diagnosis: an endocrinologist, a gynecologist, a dermatologist, sometimes a gastroenterologist for the bloating and digestive issues that often come along. But these doctors don't talk to each other. There's no interdisciplinary team that says, "Hey, let's look at the whole picture. You are the only one carrying your full medical history from room to room. And if that sounds exhausting, it is. Then there's the hidden bias, the part that's harder to talk about, but impossible to ignore. If you are Black or Hispanic, the delays are even longer. Studies show that women of color with PCOS wait longer for diagnosis and are less likely to receive proper treatment. Why? Because symptoms like hirsutism and acne are often normalized in darker skin. Doctors might see coarse facial hair and think, that's just common in this population, instead of recognizing it as a sign of high androgens. Weight bias plays a huge role too. If you're carrying extra pounds, the advice is often, lose weight and your periods will come back. It might be true that weight loss can help regulate cycles, but that doesn't mean the underlying PCOS doesn't exist. And when you're told that your weight is the problem, you walk away thinking you did this to yourself. Meanwhile, insulin resistance, a core driver of PCOS, is left unchecked for years. And if you're thin, you might hear, you don't look like you have PCOS, as if the condition only lives in bodies that conform to a certain stereotype. Approximately 30 to 40% of women with PCOS are lean, but because their weight isn't off, doctors often dismiss them entirely. So your identity, your age, your race, your body size shouldn't dictate how long you suffer, but it does. And then there's the hidden cost of waiting. Not just the emotional cost, the years of wondering, the self-doubt, the way you learn to distrust your own body, but the physical cost too. While you're waiting, PCOS isn't standing still. The insulin resistance gets worse. The risk of type 2 diabetes climbs. Endometrial hyperplasia, a precancerous condition of the uterine lining, becomes more likely when you go months without a period. And the longer it takes to get a diagnosis, the more you miss out on treatments that could have made a difference earlier. The average woman develops multiple health complications before finally hearing the words, "You have PCOS." So when you look back at those years, the doctors who shrugged, the family members who said you were being dramatic, the moments you convinced yourself you were just weak, please understand, it was never your fault. The system failed you. The knowledge was out there, but it wasn't shared with you. And now that you're here, listening, knowing that your experience is real and valid, you are one step closer to cutting through the noise. Because here's what we'll keep coming back to on this channel. You are not crazy. You never were. And the only way to break this pattern is to understand it first, so you can walk into your next appointment with the same steady voice that's been inside you all along. Next time, we'll talk about what to actually ask your doctor, the questions that can cut that waiting time down. And that waiting time? It's not a measure of how hard you tried. It's a measure of a system that wasn't built to see you clearly. But here's what we know now. You are not the first person to sit in that exam room and feel invisible. And you are not the last. Every time you share your story, every time you name the exhaustion, every time you refuse to shrink, you chip away at that silence. The average woman waits 4 to 7 years. You might already be in year 3, year 5, or still waiting for a first appointment that doesn't end in just lose some weight. That weight of being unheard is not yours to carry alone. So tonight, let yourself believe this. Your body was never lying to you. The irregular cycles, the chin hairs you plucked in secret, the fatigue that felt like drowning, they weren't inventions of your mind. They were signals, and now you know what they were signaling. You are not broken. You are not too sensitive. You are not imagining it. You are a person whose body has been speaking a language most doctors weren't taught to hear. But you are learning to translate. And that changes everything. Next time, we'll talk about what to actually ask your doctor, the questions that can cut that waiting time down.